Sod off. Huh? No. Clear off. Let me sleep. Leave me be. I want to sleep. Jesus.
I've taken care of those two cutthroats.
You do look like you've been in a fight with someone.
If you think I look bad, you should see how they ended up.
How'd they end up?
They're dead. So, what was it you wanted to tell me?
Ginger was here, but the lads hid him away somewhere. I suppose there's no need for that anymore. He's in no danger now, is he? And nor are we.
That's right. You're safe now.
All right. They're hiding him nearby. A little way along the route to Uzhitz, there's a path to the right leading to a spring. From there, you'll find an overgrown trail to a ruined hut.
Finally, some useful information. Thank you, charcoal burner. Jesus, you've led me a merry dance.
What do you want from me?
I want to ask you a couple of questions. Why did you run off like that? Where are your cronies? And why did you kill that bandit?
What?
Right, one thing at a time. Why did you run off in such a hurry?
Because I was afraid they'd come back and kill me.
Who?
Those bandits, of course.
To get revenge on you for killing their mate?
Killing? Me? I never killed anyone. God is my witness.
I'm looking for your friends. Where are they?
The charcoal burners? They're over at the...
To hell with the charcoal burners. Where are your bandit mates?
They're not my mates. They nearly killed me. I recognized one of them, so I thought they'd come back and...
Recognized? Who was it? Talk!
I don't know his name, only that he's from Uzhitz and he has a limp.
What can you tell me about him? How do you know him?
I saw him a few times in the tavern in Uzhitz, playing dice and boozing.
And?
I know he lives in a house on the edge of the village, but that's all I know. I never talked to him.
Why did you kill that bandit?
What? Bandit? I never killed anyone.
This is yours, isn't it? I pulled it from the belly of a dead bandit near the stud farm.
That is mine, but I didn't stab him. That fellow took it from me.
What fellow?
I don't know his name, but he's from Uzhitz, and he has a limp.
He limps and he's from Uzhitz. That's not much to go on, but I suppose it'll have to do.
It's all I know. I never talked to him.
I've heard everything I need to hear, so I'll leave you.
Wait! What about me? Won't you help me out?
What would you like?
I'd like to go back to the stud farm, but those cutthroats who want to kill me are still around. Will you help me?
They're out of the way. I ran into them on my travels.
Really? That's great, but
What?
I'm afraid to go back to the farm. I ran away, and God knows what they'll think about it all. I don't know if they'll even want to talk to me.
Just try, and you'll see whether they drive you away or not. But if you explain it to them, they're sure to understand.
I suppose you're right. Thank you for your help, and God bless you.
What now? Should we take a walk?
You don't give up, do you? Well, let me think. And where would you care to go?
What if we took a stroll along the river?
Why not? That sounds lovely. Shall we go?
Let's go.
That was a good idea to go for a walk. Not that I don't like the mill, but you get tired of it. So I'm glad you took me out. I'd love to see the markets in Prague one day. Have you ever been to Prague?
No, I haven't. I have been in Kuttenberg, but Prague must be much bigger.
I've heard it's pretty smelly, though.
Yeah, so many people in one place. So many assholes.
It's disgusting. I'd love to listen to that young preacher, Jan Hus. They say he preaches in a common tongue. Everyone's talking about it.
I bet he's just handsome. That's why the women dote on him.
You're a right one. A preacher doesn't need good looks for people to listen to him.
And what about that fine fellow at St. James? I know full well why all the girls have started going to confession. And you have too. Don't give me any of that.
You scoundrel. Well, all right. I admit I find him handsome. But that doesn't make me a bad Christian.
I'd never dare to suggest such a thing.
Tell you what. Let's not dawdle. Last one is a slimy slug. Look where you're going. That was fun. Sit down here next to me, Hal. And what about you? I heard you're helping Sir Radzig.
Sir Radzig has me running a few errands. I have to say, he always treats me well, and I make a wage.
So you've had your turn of luck. What's it like serving nobility?
I don't know. I suppose it's a job like any other.
I don't believe a word of it. If you ask me, you're loving every minute and you don't want to make me envious.
Now then.
Oh, Henry, what am I going to do with you? Wandering the land, turning innocent girls' heads.
Turning girls' heads? Not likely. I have my hands full with my duties. Sir Radzig hardly gives me time to take a breath.
Really? A common smith's son and our liege lord can't manage without him. That's good. It shows you're talented. But now I have to go.
Can I go with you?
I don't want to give anyone an excuse to gossip. Maybe another time.
Fancy doing something again?
I'd love to, Henry, but not just now. Come and see me in a couple of days. You've got to let a girl catch her breath now and then. Be a bit more careful.
I'll punch your dog for you. Come here, Lily Lima. Enough of you. You hear? I surrender.
You can go. And don't ever come back.
I understand. God be with you. Christ be praised.
I talked to Ginger and found out what happened.
Out with it then.
Ginger fled because he recognized one of the raiders. He was afraid they'd come back to silence him.
Well, he was right. They were asking about him. So who did he recognize?
He didn't know his name. Some fellow with a limp from Uzhitz.
All right. If you've gone this far, you may as well ask around at Uzhitz. We've enough to do here in these parts anyway. Sir Radzik will tell you about it. He said to send you to him if you haven't already been.
Greetings. What do you need?
My lord, I managed to find a clue to the whereabouts of the bandits.
Excellent. Ian had already told me what's been happening, but I'd like to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
The whole story or just the gist of it?
It's up to you what you consider important.
Well, in the end, I tracked down the stable boy who fled in fear of his life, and for good reason, too. He put me on the trail of a crofter from Uzhitz with a limp.
And his name?
The boy didn't know him by name, only by sight. But if I ask around, I'm sure folk will know who limps and keeps peculiar company. Villagers like to gossip.
But what if he's not there? He could have fled, maybe even to Kuttenberg.
If I don't find him in Uzhitz, I'll ask around. Someone will know something about him.
All right. Better go to Uzhitz then. Find this limping footpad and get the names of the others out of him. They have to face justice for what they did. I want to see them hang. Then bring him to me in Merhoyed and I'll decide on his fate.
Certainly, sir.
Why choose Merhoyed?
It's somewhat at the centre of events, isn't it? And what's more, there's another stud farm there.
Sir, do you think they're going to try the same thing again?
I shouldn't think so. Everyone will be on the alert now, but the secluded dwellings are more vulnerable. There are few people in them. They're scattered everywhere and we can't guard them all.
But the bandits won't find much silver in places like that.
There's always a groschen or two, some food and so on. Anyway, how much silver did they get from slaughtering those horses?
True. If they'd stolen them, they could have sold them. Those were fine animals.
Exactly. It's not about the silver. It's about something else.
But what?
Creating fear. Such great terror that you won't even squeak when they come to cut your throat. Never mind raise your hand against them. Fear that will root you to the spot, staring like a rabbit entranced by a stoat, waiting for the death blow to fall. Helpless to do anything about it.
I have some news about the investigation, sir.
Good. Tell me.
The trail leads to Uzhitz. I found out one of the bandits is from there, a fellow they call Limpy Lubosh.
I see. What else?
That's all I found out so far, sir.
All right. Come back and report to me as soon as you learn anything new.
What are you doing, you murderer?
What the hell are you talking about?
I saw you stealing from her.
I was finding out what happened here, so I could report it.
Good. All right. I suppose you're innocent after all.
I'm glad you saw sense. And what were you doing here exactly?
What do you mean by that?
It'll be easier if you just confess. You're carrying the murder weapon.
You won't prove it's the murder weapon, but I'll prove I know how to use it.
I could drag you off to Rattay myself and let the bailiff decide.
How dare you, you bastard!
I think I should go and report you. They'll listen to me. I know what happened. I won't leave criminals to roam the roads.
Oh, really? I tell you, if you try to pin something on me I haven't done, the whole fucking province will get to hear of it.
I think you're the killer.
What the hell do you mean by that? I won't take any more of this. I'm going into town to say you're falsely accusing me.
Move along, citizens. Move along. There's nothing to see here.
That's what you call nothing to see. I'd like to know what something to see looks like.
By the keys of St. Peter, this is all I need. We'll have to send word to Sir Hanush.
That might not be necessary.
Who are you?
I'm Henry of Skalitz, in the service of Hanush's Captain Bernard. I'm investigating the attack at Neuhof, and I think this could be related.
Well, I'm the bailiff of Auschwitz.
And I say we don't want any of that kind of trouble around here. What makes you think this has anything to do with Neuhoff?
One of the folk at the stud farm recognized someone from Auschwitz among the bandits.
No bandits or murderers around here.
Really? They say he had a limp?
Shit. Well, allow me to introduce you to Limpy Lubosh. Or all that's left of him.
Sakra. Nothing's ever easy. I'll have to take a look around and ask a few more questions, if that's all right with you.
You can take this mess off my hands and welcome to it. As for what else there is to find out, I don't know. But look and ask all you like.
Who was Limpy Lubosh?
A poor crofter and a scoundrel. Can't say I'm too surprised what happened to him. He kept company with all sorts of vermin. He was always getting into some kind of trouble. Punch-ups in the tavern and what have you.
Did he have any kith or kin in the village?
None. A loner he was. I don't know the last time I saw him with anyone.
Has he been up to anything suspicious lately?
I don't know. The last few days he didn't go anywhere. He was home the whole time. But he always kept everyone in the village at arm's length.
How come he limped?
He got that from some villainy or brawl a long time ago.
Do you happen to know where he was on the night of the Neuhoff raid?
I've no idea. He kept his distance from other folk, so you never knew if he was away or holed up at home.
When did you find the body? And did anyone see anything?
Just now, and nobody saw or heard anything. I don't know how they could gut him like that without someone hearing him scream.
Another thing about Lubosh. I've come in the name of Sir Hanish of Lipa. I'm investigating the massacre in Neuhoff, and now a murder here as well. Can I ask you a few questions?
I don't know how I can help you, but ask if you must.
Who was this Lubosh who was murdered?
You could see at first glance he was no good. I kept well out of his way.
Have you noticed anything suspicious recently?
There wasn't sight or sound of him for a long time. And then yesterday, he turned up at the church and even talked to the parish priest. I never saw him do that before. Probably had a bad conscience.
Do you know what Lubosh was doing the day Neuhoff was raided?
I don't think he was home. I didn't see him all day.
Do you know who Lubosh used to spend time with? Kin or friends?
As far as I know, he had nobody at all in this world.
That's all. Thank you.
Watch where you're going.
God be with you.
I've come in the name of Sir Hanish of Lipa. I'm investigating the massacre in Neuhoff, and now a murder here as well. Can I ask you a few questions?
I don't know nothing about it, but ask all you want.
That man Lubosh who was murdered, what was he like?
I didn't really know him. kept to himself, even in the tavern.
Have you noticed anything suspicious recently?
Come to think of it, he was in church yesterday. He was even talking to the priest and went to confession. I was wondering what he was up to take to the faith all of a sudden.
Do you know anyone Lubos used to spend time with? Relatives or friends?
Not with anyone from the village. He used to sit in the tavern next to us sometimes, but he never said much.
Do you know what Lubos was doing the day Neuhof was raided?
I was coming from the tavern very late that night, and I caught a glimpse of someone entering the village. He looked like he was in a hurry. It was only a shadow against the sky, but after what happened...
That's all. Thank you. The blessings of our good Lord be with you, Father. I'm here in the name of Sir Hanush of Lipa, investigating the massacre at Neuhof, which seems to be connected to a murder here. Can I ask you a few questions?
It seems Sir Hanush is employing children as investigators. But ask as you wish, boy. I hope this nasty business will be cleared up quickly.
Did you know Lubos? What was he like?
A bit of a lost soul. Simple, rough fellow, but at heart I don't think he was such a bad person.
Did you notice anything suspicious recently?
My child, all sorts of suspicious things have been going on recently. People like Lubos don't know what to do about it, and sometimes they do stupid things.
That's really not a lot of help to me, Father.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Do you know what Lubos was doing on the day Neuhof was raided?
Unfortunately, I do know. And I'd like to help you with your investigation, but I can't.
What?
I'm bound by certain vows that forbid me to tell you.
Vows more important than catching dangerous murderers?
There are laws of God above the laws of man, son. And one of those is the sanctity of the confessional.
Father, surely you can't be serious. There must be situations in which you can make an exception.
There are things that apply always, no matter what the circumstances, and this is one of them.
But Lubos is dead. You can't hurt him, but if you don't tell me, more innocent people may die.
If I told you, I would be betraying a vow that's a cornerstone of the Holy Church. If people believed the sanctity of the confessional couldn't be trusted, the consequences would be even worse than that.
Worse than the death of innocent Christians? Worse than the murderer escaping punishment?
No one escapes punishment.
Father, Lubosch was my only lead to the Neuhof raiders. Only he could tell me who was responsible for that massacre. If I don't find out who it was, it will probably happen again. Surely you wouldn't want that.
I wouldn't. But I can't betray the sanctity of the confessional. I'll tell you what. Give me some time and I'll try to think up some way of helping you. Suppose we talk it over in the evening, in the tavern, over a cup of good wine. Maybe we'll come up with something.
All right. Thank you, Father.
Blood will be spilled. You're dead!
Had enough? Yeah, you got me. And what are you gonna do about it? That bloated belly surely stole that ring anyway.
Giving me excuses, you lousy thief. You'll die for that.
You showed him. And did you get the loot back?
No, he had nothing on him.
Nothing? How come?
Do I look like someone you can make accusations against?
I didn't mean it like that at all. My apologies.
And just so you know, I'm no pinch purse. Here's a small reward.
Thanks.
My respects to you.
I'd like to learn to read.
You? You don't look like the makings of a priest or clerk. But why not? I've taught all sorts. Bear in mind, it won't be all that easy. You'll need plenty of time and a few groschen for my trouble.
All right. I don't want to waste time. We can get started. The sooner I master it, the better.
Very well. I will require some groschen from you, though, and set aside at least a couple of days so I can put you through your paces, if indeed time is of the essence.
Here are your groschen.
Then we may as well start.
He did break his vow, but better than to dishonor it here. May he follow his heart.
Wake up, lad. It's time we were getting on. So, let's see you read a bit. There's a book here on the table. Try to read it.
Will I manage?
You ought to be able to. It's a simple text. Come back once you've worked your way through it.
I've read the book.
Wonderful. So tell me, what have you learned?
That being greedy doesn't pay.
Excellent. You're one of my most talented pupils. You've uncovered the meaning hidden in the letters. Like I told you, books are valuable, and the words that you place in them ought to be no less so.
Does that mean that I can read then?
Yes, you have the foundation. Remember, my boy, the pen is mightier than the sword. To fully learn your way around words will take a lot more reading yet. Now we'll move on to the second lesson, which will be much harder. Many books are written in Latin, the language of erudite and religious men. If you really want to be able to read, there's no getting away from Latin. There's a book on the table with some text. Read it and then come back. You need not understand it, but you should master the letters.
I only just managed the fable about the goose, and now you're asking me to tackle Latin.
You're a clever lad. You'll manage.
read the page.
So tell me, Distrupule, what's written there?
Nullus est liber tam malus, ut non lique parte prosit.
Good heavens! Don't tell me you haven't had lessons before. Excellent. Well, there's nothing more I can teach you. Congratulations. You can go and be ordained right away.
Thank you, Domine. I'm feeling a lot wiser.
God be with you.
I'd like to discuss the price.
All right, sir.
Here, with a little something on top for a good measure.
My word. Thank you kindly.
Good day to you. What do you need?
Jesus Christ be praised.
Good day to you.
I'll be right back, Dad.
Good health to you. Be a bit more careful.
I'm sorry I can't tell you everything, but maybe we can work something out. But first, I'd like to hear something about you, my son. With whom do I have the honor? Where are you from?
I'm from Skalitz.
Oh, I'm sorry. What about your kin?
They're dead.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Here, we'll drink to them. It must have been terrible.
It was terrible. It seemed so pointless. We had no warning. They just appeared and began the slaughter. God knows why. They killed anyone who didn't make it to the shelter of the castle. My parents, my girl, even the Deutsch who was on Sigismund's side. I didn't make it to the castle. I wanted to try and help my parents, but there was nothing I could do. Then I fled to Talmberg with the Cumans on my heels. They almost killed me. They slaughtered people in the surrounding villages. There was a pile of bodies in front of the church in Rovna. Folk who tried to take refuge there, but they...
My poor child. May God grant them eternal rest. And how did you come to get this assignment? I'd have expected Sir Hanish to send that old grouch, Bernard.
He did, but I found a witness and the trail led here to Ujits, so he sent me here to follow it up.
Ah, well, congratulations. It's nice to see someone using their head to find things out instead of torture. We'll have to drink to that. Now the most important thing. What actually happened in Noyo? The good folks hereabout are saying all kinds of terrible things, but I take most of it with a pinch of salt.
One beer for me.
The rumours aren't exaggerated this time, unfortunately. The Neuhof stud farm was raided by bandits, but they didn't come to pillage or even take the horses. They only wanted to kill. They maimed the horses and slaughtered some people. I'm sure they would have killed more, but the bandits quarrelled among themselves and broke off the attack. And judging by what's left of our Lubosh, they're still settling accounts.
I see it's every bit as bad as people claimed. Dreadful. Well then, here's to those poor souls who had to die so pointlessly and so terribly.
I've told you all about me. Now it's your turn, Father. You don't look much like our parish priest at home. Well, we've had an agreeable chat, but now let's get down to business. So, about this confessional seal. Do you really want more innocent people to die?
Henry, that's not how it works. There are matters in which you can't make exceptions because if you do it once, you'll forever be tempted to do it again. If people stop believing in the church because their confessional secrets are betrayed, they won't trust anyone, and that's worse than even the most hideous crime.
I understand, but that means I've reached a dead end. Those cutthroats will strike again, and I can't stop them.
Chin up, lad. I might have a solution.
What?
If I tell you what Lubosh told me, I'd be betraying the confessional secret. But, first thing tomorrow, I'll try something I think might help you.
Word of honor?
On my soul.
I always wondered about the things a priest tells his congregation. Where on earth do you get the ideas for your sermons?
Well, Ujits isn't Prague. It's not enough to instruct people. They have to be entertained, too. If I only read from the Bible, I'd soon be preaching to an empty church.
Our priest wasn't exactly a bard. So what do you preach to your flock about?
It has to be something topical. Condemning vices. And, of course, describing them in detail. A tongue-lashing about the two popes goes down well these days. And stories from real life, with a nice moral to them, are popular as well. Especially if they're about fornication and similar scandalous vices.
Can you give me an example?
Well, Recently, a priest by the name of Jan Hus started preaching in Prague, in the Czech language, and the people liked it. I hear he always has a full house. A journeyman who heard him told me what Hus is preaching, and I like the sound of it. I'm thinking about putting it in my own repertoire.
What's so amazing about it?
The preaching of Master Jan Hus about Mother Church. The lamentable wealth in which the church is drowning has turned to poison, and nearly the whole of Christendom is contaminated. Just like a flock of hungry ravens, they settled on this land to devour every grain of gold and silver. They know no mercy. Their hearts are corrupted by longing for wealth, and they shamelessly profit from everything. You want to baptize a child? Pay. You want to steal and murder? Pay and you will have absolution. What if the devil himself were to pay? Would he ascend to heaven too? With such money gained from the poor, they buy beautiful horses to ride and needless servants to pamper them. They gamble at dice and dress their whores in expensive furs, while Jesus Christ walked barefoot and had no place to lay his head. Look to your consciences, you robbers of the poor, for you are seen by God and his people too. Amen.
Well, this Jan Hus character is quite a rebel.
Oh, the congregation will love it.
I don't doubt it.
Let's drink to that.
Funny. That last bit reminds me of someone.
What do you mean? My situation's completely different. Huth preaches against the prelates and the clerics who are robbing the poor. Look at me. I don't have a pot to piss in. I'm no better off than the folk I preach to. I'm one with them in poverty and suffering and everything that troubles them. I drink with them and curse those stuffed habits in Sasau Monastery.
What do the common folk think of it?
They like it. They're happy to hear someone say what they think themselves, but are afraid to say aloud. Things that make them angry. And they're calling for change. In a few years, it'll have grown beyond control. You mark my words, the people will rise up, and the church will be shaken to its very foundations.
Yeah, unless they burn him at the stake first.
Nonsense. They can't burn a master of the most respected university in Europe.
Don't you think it's a bit odd when someone boozes and lives in sin with a woman and then criticises the Pope for debauchery?
No, I don't.
What do you think of this Jan Hus?
He's certainly a wise man. A little overzealous for me. I'm here for a look. I'm sure he'll stop condemning drinking and lying with women.
Where can I find out more about his teachings?
You like it? I copied down some of his sermons. If you're interested, you can read them at my presbytery.
Thanks for the sermon, but I think I've been morally uplifted enough. Oh, it's getting quite late. What are your plans, Father?
What do you suppose? We have a drink, of course.
Ah, that sounds like a good plan.
I knew you wouldn't let me down.
Przyszła bida mora lat, to nie ustoi żadnej chlap. Na kraj padł dziesięć smutek, dodnielo i rano utek, niech już małżeński majstat, do wczera żył nestaje prak. Už sejmoj svatý muži, nechtěl bych bejbě jich kůži, nám je to jedno a tak si dáme jedno a požadem si umí jako poslední den. Spávy, panorama stávy a tak vypad sudy a posaď se mi sem, tak posaď se sem a vypad je ven. Ukaž kozy jako vozy, zítra jen tu jsou nejdem, tak nalej mi hned a očí se zpět.
Enough of this! Bailiff!
Come on over here, sit down and have a drink with us.
Don't vex me again, Father. It's 3 hours past dusk, and curfew is long gone.
So what?
So, I'll have you all whipped and put in the stocks, and I'll write a letter to the bishop about you, priest.
Well, nothing to worry about then. Everyone knows the only one around here who can ride is me.
Enough! Men, throw them out.
You looking for a fight? Henry, back me up.
The best you can do. Good about
Okay, come on.
Is that all?
I'd love to. And Henry, too, I'm sure. Right, Henry.
Stop that nonsense, Godwin. Are you out of your mind? What will people say?
They can say what they like. What do I care? What do they do to me? Watch the step, my dear. Careful, you don't hurt yourself. Here we are. Look at this beauty.
Oh. We can't do this, can we?
Who says? Get ringing, wench.
This is wonderful.
Ah, bloody oath. And now, my dears, comes the climax of the evening.
Godwin, you old goat.
Come here. Oh.
Priest has mounted up. What do you say, Henry? Shall we take a little ride of our own?
Okay.
Well, I have to say that was a fine evening.
Godwin, you beast! Get up! Do you hear me? Wake up, you drunkards!
Oh, fucking hell. Where the... Oh, what the... Oh, who the hell are you? Oh, Henry. My great friend, Henry. Didn't we have a wonderful time?
Well, you certainly did, you old lecher. Now you better pull yourself together quick. You haven't much time. There's some water and something to eat on the table there, but if I were you, I would move my hairy arse before my flock eats me alive.
Oh, step on in my head. My guts. My poor suffering stomach. What was that woman on about? Before my flock eats me alive. I've forgotten something. What have I forgotten?
Where the fuck am I?
What the fuck was it? Mass! Oh shit, I have to say mass. I gotta say mass. You have to help me.
How? You're the priest.
I can't do it in this state. Maybe the liturgy. But I have to give a sermon as well. Oh, this is a disaster. They're gonna excommunicate me.
I'd like to help you, but...
You can. You can do the sermon for me.
What? So, first I investigate a murder no one wants investigated. Then I drunkenly keep the whole town up all night. And now you want me to preach at them from the pulpit? Do you want them to burn us at the stake?
No. No, I've got it. Suppose that Sir Ratzig's protege. You just came from studying in Prague. And you want to share the words of Master Jan Hus, who you recently heard preaching there. Henry, look. From what I remember, we might have overdone it a bit last night. And if the bailiff or someone else complains about me, the bishop's gonna have my guts for garters. So I'd appreciate it if you stopped gaping at me like a stuffed squirrel and start helping.
You're mad. You're stark raving mad.
I'm not. It's a perfect plan. It's flawless. Oh. How about this? If you help me with this, I'll tell you who Lubosh's cronies are.
Well, all right. But I can't make any promises about what'll happen.
No, neither can I.
What do you want me to do, exactly?
I'll go and start the liturgy. Then I'll introduce you. You give the sermon I told you yesterday in the tavern, and that's that. No need to drag it out. If it turns out well, I'll tell you what I know about Lubosh.
Christ almighty. Fine, then. We have a deal.
Wonderful. Let's get to it, then.
show up. The swim pole.
Look at him. He can hardly walk after his capers last night.
You were with them, you beast. Just you wait.
Look at him. Mother of God, any minute now he'll throw up.
So I couldn't sleep a wink last night with all that clamor.
In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Accepit panem in sanctas at venerabiles a manus suas. Hoc facite in mea commemoratio. Brothers and sisters, you may have had the honor of meeting Henry from Skalitz, who is here at the behest of Sir Hanush to investigate that heinous crime at Neuhof. You might not know that Henry recently visited Prague, where, by the grace of God, was able to hear Master Jan Hus from the esteemed Charles University preaching. I've managed to persuade Henry to stand here today in my stead and tell us what he heard. Because, as you all probably know, Jan Hus is a very popular preacher in Prague. So, Henry, you may begin.
Now I'm curious which one of them will puke first.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers and sisters in Christ, I would like to talk to you about our Holy Mother Church and what iniquities it's declining into.
That whelp wants to preach about the church.
Just as we are commanded to obey the priests in matters of virtue, so are we commanded to defy them face to face if they live contrary to God's commandments.
Hear that, Godwin?
It is the corruption of God's pastors here on earth that has brought misfortune on our heads. Plague, enemies, injustice, hunger and chaos, failed harvests, fires, floods and other catastrophes. And it is all due to the corrupt servants of God who do not practice what they preach. They think sins can be washed away by money, and they sell indulgences, and that's bad. Because sins cannot be redeemed with silver.
Prague didn't do much for his confidence.
And what sins? They live with harlots and keep concubines, even though only marital intercourse for the purpose of procreation is pure. If someone takes a woman or man only to satisfy their own lust, who seduces them to do so but Satan? And how much darker the sin if that man is a servant of the church? Who can turn his face to God, who fornicates and then puts on priestly robes?
Nothing we don't know about already.
Enough about sin, which the prelates are so fond of preaching about, and whose absolution they promise if you only pay enough coin to Mother Church. What if the devil himself were to pay? Will the bishops tell us he too would ascend to heaven? And what about those bishops? They sin without remorse, and with the money grasped from the poor for indulgences, they keep fine horses and hordes of servants to pamper them. They play dice and garb their mistresses in expensive furs, while Christ, the Lamb of God, walked barefoot, and had nowhere to lay his head? Look to your consciences, you robbers of the poor, for you are seen by God and his people too.
Down with the prelates! Away with them!
We're fortunate to have our good father Godwin. At least he's a fair and simple man.
God sees what is happening on earth, and he is filled with righteous wrath that those who should seek the salvation of souls instead seek mammon and the idle comfort of lucrative posts. Blessed are the shepherds who share the poverty of their flock, who are as one with you and bear with you the burden of this earthly pilgrimage, who do not condemn your venial sins.
Oi! All honor to Godwin! Let him drink like one of us!
That is all I heard in Prague. Amen.
Telefony do kłopotu.
Have you no shame, you pair of buffoons? I'll be writing to the bishop of this. For shame.
Utterly blasphemous.
Can you believe such behavior? For men of the cloth to get drunk at pigs'